Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. In this video, we will learn about Salesforce triggers. Have you ever felt like triggers are confusing and hard to understand? If that's the case, this video is for you. Today, we are going to make learning triggers fun by explaining them using the game PUBG. So, for those who don't know PUBG, it's a popular shooting game and survival game. This game basically involves many players and the goal is to be the last one standing to win the game. Even if you don't know this game, no worries, you will understand it. First, let's learn about triggers. What exactly are these triggers? In simple terms, a trigger is an automation tool. Let's look at an example from PUBG. Imagine your health is low in the game. When you click on health kit, your health automatically increases on the screen, right? Here, if you see, the action clicking on the health kit triggers an automation process increasing your health. You didn't manually add each health point by your own, right? It basically happened automatically. So on click on a button, some action has happened in the backend and your health got increased. Similarly, in Salesforce, triggers allows you to automate tasks. For example, if you have an account in Salesforce and perform an action like creating or saving it, triggers can execute automation based on these actions. So now let's understand. We have flows for automation in Salesforce, then why go for triggers? Salesforce provides tools like flows for automation, but they have limitations. Flows are drag and drop based and might not suitable for complex automation. If your requirement grows more complex, let's say your client comes in and says, I want this entire PUBG game to be automated using Salesforce flows. It's just an example. Just imagine. It's not at all possible because automating a huge requirement using flows is not possible and it can be challenging for other developers to understand or maintain the flow. That's why Salesforce introduced triggers. These are written in code, enabling more advanced and precise automation. Now, let's understand different types of triggers. Salesforce triggers are of two types: before triggers and after triggers. We will use PUBG's blue zone and safe zone concept to understand them. For those who don't know PUBG's blue zone is a kind of danger zone in PUBG. If you stay here for too long, your health starts to decrease. Safe zone is where you are protected from the blue zone and you can focus on survival. Now let's understand before triggers. A before trigger is used to perform actions before a record is saved into the database. What does this mean? To understand this better, let's say these are all the records in Salesforce. When I click on a record, choose edit and click on save, the trigger starts working in the backend. Before updating anything into the database, the trigger or the code that we have written checks if everything is in place according to the trigger logic. If everything is correct, it proceeds to save the changes into the database. Let's understand this with PUBG example. Imagine you are in a blue zone and you want to use a health kit. However, using a health kit in the blue zone is inefficient because your health will keep depleting until you reach the safe zone. A before trigger is like checking your position first. It checks if you are in blue zone or in the safe zone before deciding to use the health kit. Now, in Salesforce, before triggers are used to validate data or set default values before saving a record. If you are creating a record, you want to ensure certain fields are filled correctly. You can use a before trigger to validate this before the record is saved into the database. I hope you understood this. Now, let's go to after triggers. An after trigger is used to perform actions after a record is saved into the database. Now, let's understand it with a PUBG example. Once you have safely reached to the safe zone, you can use your health kit effectively. Here, the action using the health kit is performed after you move to the safe position. In Salesforce, after triggers are used to update related records or perform complex logic after a record is saved. Example: after an account is created, you might automatically want to create a contact record. In summary, before triggers are like if you want to validate something, or if you are creating a record and you want to ensure that certain fields are filled correctly, you use before trigger, and you will write a code in such a way like, okay, now I'm going with before trigger. So before I save a record into database, I have to check if all the fields are in place or not. If everything is correct, I will save my data into database. In that situation, you will go for before triggers. Now, coming to after triggers, you will go for after triggers when you use to update related records or perform some complex logic after the record is saved into database. I hope you understood this. Now, let's understand trigger events with PUBG example. In PUBG, there are various game actions you can perform, such as picking up items, using weapons, looting crates, or reviving teammates. Similarly, in Salesforce, trigger events correspond to specific moments when action occur, and triggers are fired accordingly. Here's how the trigger events can be compared to PUBG actions. First, let's understand before insert. Imagine you are looting a crate for weapons. Before you pick up a weapon, the game checks that do you have enough space in your backpack or not. It checks if you are meeting the conditions to equip this weapon. In Salesforce, the before insert trigger is used to validate or modify data before a record is saved for the first time. Now let's understand before update. Let's say you want to attach a scope to your sniper. Before the game updates your weapon with the scope, it checks, is the scope compatible with a sniper rifle or not? Do you already have another scope equipped that will be replaced? So basically, if you have M416 and if you try using a 8x scope for it, it is not possible. So before you update your M416 scope with a different scope, the game checks if this is the right scope or not, if this scope is compatible with the gun or not. So before update works like this. In Salesforce, the before update trigger ensures that the data meets conditions before an update occurred in the database. Now, let's understand before delete. Imagine you are about to drop an item from your inventory to make space for something else. Before dropping it, the game ensures that if that particular item is critical for your survival or not. Let's say if you are dropping all your energy drinks, the game pops up a notification saying that, are you sure, or something like that. So it is making sure that if you want to drop it or not, or it could be a mistake. Similarly, in Salesforce, the before delete trigger checks if there is any dependency or restrictions before deleting a record. Now, let's understand after insert. After looting a weapon from a crate, the game updates your inventory count. It might also display a notification that your loadout has been updated. So this is happening after you insert something into your inventory. Similarly, in Salesforce, the after insert trigger is used to perform actions that depend on the record being successfully saved. Now let's understand after update. Suppose you have successfully attached a scope to your sniper rifle. After the game updates your weapon, it adjusts your aiming interface and range visibility accordingly. It's like once you update your scope with some other scope, it updates the range of the visibility, correct? Similarly, in Salesforce, after update trigger performs tasks that rely on update data being saved into database. Now let's understand after delete. If you drop an item from your inventory, the game frees up space and adjusts your weight balance or movement speed if applicable. Let's say if you remove some ammo from your bag, there will be some free space and you can run a bit faster. Similarly, in Salesforce, the after trigger is used to perform actions that occur after a record has been deleted. Example, if you write a logic saying that if I try deleting an account, I want to delete all the related contacts. In such situation, you can use after delete. Now let's understand after undelete. Imagine your teammate has been knocked out and you revive them. Once revived, the game restores their health to a default level and updates their status back to alive. The game might also re-enable their ability to pick up items or shoot weapons. So basically we use after undelete triggers when you need to perform actions after a record is stored from a recycle bin. Just like PUBG handles various actions like looting, equipping, and dropping items based on specific game logic, Salesforce triggers handle different events like before and after to ensure the right actions are executed at the right time. Now, let's understand context variables in Salesforce. So basically, context variables help determine what is happening in the system and provide information about the records involved in a trigger. Let's take an example. In PUBG, just like Salesforce triggers, certain variables provide specific details about what's happening in the game. The game context details help determine actions or rules during the gameplay. Let's first understand about trigger.isInsert. Imagine you are looting in PUBG. A new item is looted. When you pick up a new item, example a weapon or a health kit, the game treats this as adding something new to your inventory. So this is called isInsert. What is isUpdate? When you replace an attachment on a weapon, you want to swap a 2x scope with 4x, the game updates your inventory to reflect the change. In Salesforce, trigger.isInsert checks if the operation is inserting new records or not. Trigger.isUpdate checks if the operation is updating the existing records or not. Now let's understand trigger.isDelete. When you drop an item from your inventory, the game considers this as deleting that item from your inventory system. Similarly, in Salesforce, trigger.isDelete checks if the trigger was fired due to a record being deleted. Let's understand trigger.isBefore. When you are about to pick an item, the game checks if you have space in your inventory or if the item is usable. This happens before the item is added to your inventory. Here I am stressing out the word before. This happens before the item is added to your inventory. In Salesforce, trigger.isBefore indicates the logic is executed before the changes are committed to database. What exactly is isAfter? Once you have successfully looted the item, the game updates your stats or inventory visuals, and this happens after the item is picked up. In Salesforce, trigger.isAfter indicates the logic is executed after the changes are saved into database. Trigger.new. Imagine you just looted a new weapon and a health kit. The game keeps track of the new items being added to your inventory. These new items are part of trigger.new context. In Salesforce, trigger.new contains a list of all new or updated records that are being processed in the current operation. Trigger.old. Let's say you replaced a 2x scope with 4x. The game keeps track of the old 2x scope that was previously equipped before the change. So basically, trigger.old in Salesforce contains the list of original record data before they were updated or deleted. Trigger.new map. When you equip items like grenades or sniper rifles, the game maps these items to their slots. Example, grenade slot, weapon slot, etc. If you switch a sniper rifle for an assault rifle, the game refers to the old item to slot mapping before replacing it. Basically, in Salesforce, trigger.new map is a map of IDs to the new versions of the record, and trigger.old map is a map of IDs to the old versions of the record. So to understand this more clearly, when you're trying to update a record or change some value on a fields on a record, and when you click on edit button and change some value on a field, at this particular time, trigger.old map gets the old value of that field and trigger.new map has the new version of that field. I hope you understood this. What exactly is trigger.size? Imagine you looted multiple items from a crate. The game determines the total number of items being picked up in one go. In Salesforce, trigger.size gives you the total number of records that are being processed by the trigger. So I hope you might have understood when exactly to use before triggers and when to use after triggers. And you might have understood what exactly are these context variables. That's it for this video. In the next one, we will dive deeper into each concept with detailed code examples in Salesforce. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.